warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. As usual, we have our eye on COVID-19 and the programming is hence also going to be talking about the same. Today, we're focusing on a company that is one of India's prominent lifestyle conglomerates and ranges from jewelry to watches to eyewear into, the wearables category and is one of India's most prominent successful brands. Well, I'm talking about none other than Titan. And today I'm joined by Suparna Mitra, the Titan CEO who handles the watches portfolio. It is not breaking news when I say that over the last few months, COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent lockdown has impacted the entire company quite drastically, given the environment and the consumer sentiment, which is rather dim. People are only spending on essentials, and hence discretionary spends are completely gone for a toss. Suparna Mitra is, going to join me today as the CEO of Titan Watches and Wearables, and she's going to talk about their attempt to navigate this crisis, their attempt to ensure that things start crawling before they, of course, speed up. We must also note that we're entering the festive season, and all businesses have pinned their hopes on this quarter and hoping that this will somewhat normalize what we've seen, a completely battered first quarter and also somewhat second quarter, hoping that the festive season will balance some of those losses. With that, many thanks for joining us right here, Suparna. You do not have an enviable position, that's for sure. Must have been a very, very tough and trying 5 months. We've all, even personally, been navigating through, these trying circumstances. To be in your position to navigate a category that has, completely, gotten off the field must be very, very trying. How has it been for you?
Actually, Sonali, it's, of course, it is tough, but we are all very hopeful and optimistic of recovery, and we have used this time very well. I think there have been many attempts at reaching out to customers. I think customer engagement has only gone up. So all our sales field force have been in touch with customers because the store staff have been calling customers. We've been calling customers. We've also done a lot of work in reaching out to our ecosystem partners, franchisees, distributors, vendors, and also a lot of employees. A lot of good also came out of it, though business results are what they are. But we've used this time also to rethink and reset many business processes that were going on for a while, for many years, in a certain way. So it has given us time to pause, reflect, connect, reset. And going forward, we are hopeful that we will, of course, recover, like you said, quarter on quarter, recover more and more.
Sure. So, Suparna, if you could just throw some light on, first couple of months where you were completely out of business because your stores were shut down. Then, of course, as Unlock 1.0 began and across the country, different rules and protocols were put in place, your stores reopened. How would you define the consumer behavior, now that stores have opened? What is the kind of trickling in you see? What is the interest levels? Which categories are they looking at? More value categories? Is premium still in the play? How's it looking?
So we find that there are, premium watches are doing well relatively, and the average price point has gone up. The second interesting variation we are seeing is the recovery between, and that is very easy to understand, between mall stores and high street stores, right? So high street stores opened much earlier, and mall stores are just now in the process of, coming back into action. Consumer fear has been higher in malls, though in a way malls are much larger spaces and it's easier to keep it safe, but that's how the psychology is. The third dimension of variation is smaller towns versus metros. So what has happened is, in the first wave, it was Delhi and Mumbai which got hit really badly, also followed by Chennai and then Hyderabad and Bangalore, also Kolkata. So we found that our recovery in smaller towns was better. It was at least 5 to 7 percentage points better, because the COVID crisis had not hit the smaller towns as much. And the fourth dimension in which we see the recovery different is along different channels of sale. So in watches and wearables division, we have many channels of sale. We have physical channels and we have digital channels. So we have our own stores. We have three networks, retail networks: the World of Titan, the Fast Track Store, and the Helios network. And we have multi-brand outlets. A lot of multi-brand dealers which sell watches also sell our products. So we have seen that, obviously, and that is easier to predict, online recovered faster. And among the physical chains, actually, our own retail recovered faster. Multi-brand retail is next. And large format stores, which tend to be more in the malls, are recovering the last, as in they're the last to recover. Their recovery is almost delayed by more than a month compared to the other channels. So there are different dimensions of recovery. From a consumer point of view, see, watches are, like you mentioned right at the beginning, it's a discretionary and a feel-good kind of category. Having said that, the reasons why people are coming and buying are gifting. There is a very large, reason to gift, because people are kind of stuck and they have realized, loved ones are so special, which they probably had not thought of so much. So there is a lot of gifting within the family. There's also a lot of gifting to other people, other loved ones who are in other cities, and kind of now you can't meet, right? There are a lot of gifting occasions which have come up in what we called missed milestones. So birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, new jobs, everything has happened during the pandemic, and we haven't had time to go out and celebrate. And the next version of this is the whole festive season, because people are kind of tied down, and now, all the festivals are coming up. The other segment that is doing well is wearables, and that is because of the increased focus on health and fitness. So we have wearable bands like Fast Track Reflex, Fast Track Reflex Beat. All of these are doing well because of the increased focus on health and fitness.
If I had to, let's say, go back to the pre-COVID days, obviously, I would assume that your physical retail was a far larger contributor than your online channels. Has there been any big difference, with the revenue, with the sales that have been happening? Have you seen any difference in that split in the COVID era?
Yes, we have. And there is an interesting thing here. One is the sales in the online channel. The other thing that we are looking at is what we call digitally influenced sales, right? So it's become a hybrid. If you were to think about consumers who were already both searching and buying online, they were always comfortable with e-commerce, they continue to be. Then there were people who were comfortable with both searching and buying offline. Increasingly, we find that they're doing the search online, and they still go out and buy the final product, the final transaction happens offline. And we've done a lot of things to actually enable it. And this has been a journey that we were on even last year, but of course, COVID has given it that push, which is the whole journey of omnichannel. And omnichannel itself has become something many more layers and dimensions than what we started off with, say, last year, pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we were looking at buying online, what is called BOPIS, which is you buy it online, but you pick it up offline, or you reserve online and you pick it up offline.
Oh, is it called BOPIS? Is it?
Yeah, BOPIS and BROPIS. Those are the two words. Or we are doing things like video calling. So video calling or appointment booking, which means that, for example, I'm a customer who's a little scared about the COVID situation. When I go to the store, I don't want a lot of people. So I book an appointment and I say, at 11 o'clock, I will go. Or it could be that I am at home and the store staff is helping me choose. That's the video shopping. By actually, she is wearing the watch and she's saying, does this work? Does this work? And that is a more enhanced experience than simply selecting online on a catalog.
If I had to ask you about, one inherent problem that we're all going to face, which is this whole work from home becoming very normalized and becoming the way of the future. A lot of companies have also seen a lot of gain in this model. I think most of us are working from home. Even for me, who shoots regularly, my only incentive to get ready is when I have a shoot. Otherwise, I'm happy just being lazy in my lazy home clothes. Right, and most of our calls are off camera, so there is no real incentive to look prim and proper. Watches, I have to take it even a step further, because if I'm going to be at home, then so that the whole moment and occasions of showing off your accessories, showing off your watch, even its utility of checking time, because I have a mobile phone, and if you're at home, you have a wall clock or whatever it is, has just become redundant. What do you do in such a situation to ensure that you bring the relevance of watches back, and trigger that need, desire to own a timepiece?
Yeah, it's a very, very relevant question. We've been racking our brains at this for a while, and there are we've approached this from two different levels, actually three different levels, I would say. The first is the level of actually all consumption. And one of the things we've realized, all of us have realized, is that no matter how much band-aid we can give to the economy through different SOPs and whatever we expect the government to do, etc., finally the economy will kick back into action when consumption is back. Because when consumption is there more production, and production leads to employment, and employment leads to more consumption, and so that virtuous cycle has to be kicked. It had come to a grinding halt during the lockdown, during the April-May lockdown. So actually, we from Titan, we've put together this campaign which is called "Let's Get India Ticking." So it's a hashtag "Let's Get India Ticking." It's a category agnostic campaign which we have actually showcased a whole lot of smaller and bigger, situations. In fact, there are shots of factories working, of shutters opening, of plane, things in the airport, etc., which somehow have become a distant memory for us, many of us, how life used to be, and to really urge people, saying that we all need to do a bit. The next level is at the level of the category. And you're right, the category has several challenges. But if you think about it, the category was not about time for a long time. For about 30 years, people have had mobiles, and they're not looking at, not just mobiles, every device you have. No, the TV will have, the laptop will, everything will have in time. But it is also about personality. It's about style. It's about who I am. And if I look at the portfolio of brands we have, there's Titan, the Sonata, which is for the more mass brand. We have Fast Track, which is the youth brand. We have Xylus, which is the Swiss brand. We have Nebula, which is the gold brand. We have Zoop, which is the kids brand. So there are reasons far beyond just telling time that people buy watches, and gifting is a very big one. So actually, each of the three brands have taken specific platforms which work uniquely for them. So Titan, which has always been associated with gifting from the 90s, is doing a big campaign called "Gift a Titan Smile," and it's like you gift a Titan and you get a gift a smile to somebody, and it's like there are a lot of situations we are seeing people are appreciating the spouses, because nobody knew how much work there was going on that the other spouse was actually taking care of, and now everything is in that intimate surrounding. Suddenly you realize how much our spouses do. Brand Fast Track, on the other hand, is for the youth. Just after the lockdown, we actually launched a new collection. We have a brand ambassador in Ananya Pandey, and we launched a new collection called Fit Outs from Fast Track. Did fabulously well. I think it's also about giving a reason to buy. If the reason to buy is something that makes sense to a 20-year-old, she will buy it. Recently, about 15 days back, we had a launch of a Titan smartwatch called Connected X, and that's done so well. It's priced at 11,995. We're giving 0 discount. Obviously, it's just launched, and it's doing well.
Why would you launch it at this time, Suparna? I'm curious.
Actually, it was slated for launch much earlier. It was slated for launch in April, and it was a bit of a gamble, but I think it is paying, and it is showing that there are customers who want a differentiated product, are willing to pay for it.
Right. I'm particularly interested in, your analysis of your categories. How would you like crystal gaze and look at this era we're in, and look at the way we've changed as people in terms of spending, and look at which of those categories you'd want to invest very heavily on and bet on, because that's what's going to give you, bear more fruits during this odd phase.
So I think two things that come out clearly to me. One is premium, and it's because that's the customer segment that is going to be least impacted. No, I mean, somebody with a certain net worth, yeah, his or her income would have also come down, but not so much that they will think 15 times about buying a 10,000 rupee watch. It's a small indulgence for some people. So premium is something that I think will continue. And the premium customer, to woo the premium customer is tough, because you have to really innovate. I think innovation is the key there. Product innovation, even I would say retailing innovation, those are really key. And the other one that I would bet a lot on is smart and wearables. Firstly, there is a new reason, because there is a actual technical functional reason. It gives you something, some information that is useful to you and does something in your life. And also because of the overall, direction towards health and fitness. Fitness, yes, but today I think everybody is kind of consumed with health parameters and immunity and all of that. And I think the nation as a whole is thinking deeply about their physical state, their bodies, and how they need to, keep it in good shape, improve, etc. So this is something that I think the wearables and smart space is something that we had, again, coincidentally invested just before we had done an acqui-hire of a Hyderabad-based startup company called Hug Innovations, and they came on board on 1st of Jan. And honestly, I'm so glad. If it had got delayed by a quarter, who knows? So yeah, and they are there. We have 23-member team there, and they are hardcore, engineers, hardware, software, firmware. They're writing all the algos. So they are working a lot on a lot of new use cases post-COVID, which are also coming up.
Okay, so let me get to the next one, which is, because of what we're seeing, most companies, are adopting somewhat automation, cost cutting, partly by choice, partly by compulsion, partly by discovery, all of that. And a lot of companies are actually, because they've been forced to make that move, a lot of companies have adopted automation much faster and are looking at the savings it possibly is reaping for them. What is the internal thought within your company in terms of automation and cost cutting?
It's very similar to what you mentioned, Sonali. It is, I think, like you said, part of it is discovery. We thought there was only one way of doing things, and that involved a certain amount of cost. Even things like travel and launches and all of these launches are happening online. And
yeah, but don't say that, Suparna. If our lives are going to be like this,
I know it sounds terrible. No. I do think that we're going to come to a hybrid model, and I'll just give you an example. Like our field force, they go to stores, right? They have a journey plan, like a beat. So you have to go to so many stores. And today, of course, they are not able to get out of the base location in many cases because travel is not allowed or advised. But they're doing that, but the stores are open in the other location. Yeah. So what they're doing is that they are having a lot of virtual meetings, and they're trying to accomplish the same work, which is go through the numbers, talk about the initiatives, the regular meeting. So the meeting is happening. And then that is leading us to thinking, if suppose an area manager had to go to a store once a month, actually he can possibly go every alternate month and get the same work done, which earlier we had thought was not even possible.
Yeah.
But I do believe that, I do agree with you, a completely virtual working has severe limitations in the long run. but some kind of a hybrid model along various business processes, not just one, many business processes.
Let me ask you a straight up question. You've done, I think now 2 virtual launches during this locked period of, sitting at home and working. And you've done the normal, big bang, high decibel physical launch. If I had to ask you to compare both of them and the output and the results, what would you say?
So my answer would be, it is very similar to how our meetings happen on Zoom or MS Teams or Google Hangouts. It's very efficient. It's very to the point. It works, but some magic is missing, right?
But are you getting the desired output in terms of coverage, in terms
of... Yes, we are. Because nobody else also has a choice, right? It's not like they have a choice. They're also doing it. But I think somewhere, and that's why I'm saying over a period of time, what inside a company, what you call culture, with different stakeholders, what you call relationship, those, it's like a bank account. The moment you keep, taking out, you keep taking debits, then the amount will come down. So at some point you have to credit it. And I think that's true of, like I said, with employees, with partners, with other stakeholders. Currently, everything is virtual, and there is some bit of magic missing, but it works. From an efficiency point of view, it really works.
Okay, what would you say has been your toughest moments, both as a professional, as an individual at an individual level, and of course as a individual who's heading a company? What would have been your toughest moments?
I think as a professional, and for us in the watches business, we have been in business for 33 years, and we thought we know the formula, and we realized we don't know. So everything is back. You're rethinking everything, and it can be a little unnerving or a little disorienting. But I think now, after the first initial period of disorientation, I can tell you the last 2 weeks of March and the first week of April, we were all in some kind of state of shock. We didn't know, what was happening. But now we've come to terms with the situation, and we've figured out what works and what doesn't, and that helps. As an individual, I think the good thing has been, like I was saying, even for consumers, that we've all got time to reflect and value the things that really matter, instead of just running around, like all over the place all the time. You're just traveling and all of that. I think that has helped. I think as an individual, I'm worried about the COVID situation, and our store staff are out there, they're meeting customers. I have to admit, I have anxiety on that, because this is a very easy to get illness or infection. So I'm worried about that. And as a person who leads a large team, I think the challenge as well as the opportunity is, how do we make people think clearly, act sharply, be optimistic, not get pulled down, remain resilient, remain courageous, take bold steps, don't get too scared of the consequences, because frankly, nobody knows the consequences, making people understand and motivating them, inspiring them, and telling them, yes, these are difficult times, but we will come out of it and come out of it together.
Well, Suparna, lovely speaking with you. Thank you for the candid speak, and wishing you all the very best, going forward. May people spend more, may people also feel good, and hopefully we'll all get back to some semblance of normalcy, in the latter half of the year.
Thank you so much. It was really good fun talking to you. Really enjoyed it.
Well, stay happy and stay safe, and speak to you soon.
You too. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.